I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Brian Wilson.
And joining us on the line right now is our good friend Joe diGenova. He's a former U.S. Attorney to the District of Columbia, legal analyst, and a smart guy. Hello, Joe.
Good morning.
All right, so we have new developments in the email investigation because there's this story in The Hill that is raising a few eyebrows. Said, look, they've talked to Uma, they've talked to Cheryl Mills, they've talked to Brian Pagliano, that the last person that they will be talking to is Hillary Clinton, and that should be coming relatively soon. That's the way these things are conducted, although Hillary says she has not been contacted as yet about giving an interview to the FBI. Where are things?
Yeah, well, I'm sure her lawyers have been contacted. I'm sure she's parsing the question very, very carefully. Her lawyers have been contacted. I'm sure she'll be interviewed soon. It appears that they're coming near the end of the investigation. So you always interview the main target of any type of investigation like this last, so you've had an opportunity to interview all the people around her and get their stories and also get documents and other things like that. So, we'll see what happens.
Well, and then there was this report from CNN.
Now, the interviews, we're told, are focused on whether classified information was mishandled and the security of the server. But so far, officials tell us, no, there is no evidence of criminal wrongdoing at this point in the investigation. But
all right, so they say no criminal. I mean, I noticed they didn't quote FBI officials in that particular report.
Yeah, she said government officials. This has also happened in the Washington Post story last week. Although in the Washington Post story, they quoted a U.S. law enforcement official who said that they had found no evidence that there was willful conduct, which, of course, is a standard for certain statutes, but not for the grossly negligent mishandling of classified information, which does not require willful conduct. So we'll see. We'll see where the Bureau's going. It's their reputation when all is said and done. This will all be about the Bureau.
Can you drill down a little further on this term willful intent, though, really quickly? Because
all that means is it wasn't an accident. In other words, willful means purposeful. It means you determined to do it. So let's say, for example, if you're a private citizen and you decide you work for the government. Let's say you work for the government. You have a classified information clearance, and you decide to set up a private server in your home to do all of your government work. By setting up that server, you have willfully, purposely, intentionally decided that you're going to send and receive classified information on a server that is not secure. That's what they mean by that.
Right. There's no way for it not to be willful because you went out of your way to do this thing.
That is correct. And in fact, that's why the Freedom of Information Act lawsuits are so important, because they show that the purpose of the server was to deny access to information. This was not an accident. This was a plan. In the law, we call it a scheme, a design. It's part of what is called a conspiracy.
Right.
The notion that this is not willful, may I just say this, to the reporters reporting it, these reporters are stupid.
Listen, there's one other word
Don't hold back, Joe.
They keep throwing out here, and this is what I would really like to. They keep saying there wasn't any malicious intent, which suggests, oh, sure, she intended to do it, but she didn't intend anything malicious by it.
That is also false.
You just said that by setting up this server, it proves that she was trying to dodge these FOIA requests.
That is correct.
How can we prove that?
That establishes
because she says it was convenience, Joe.
No. You know what? Convenience is malice. Because the law says you can't do it. You can't handle classified information on an unsecure server or related documents. I have to tell you something. Some of the quotes that are coming out have got to be coming from high Justice Department officials who are not directly involved in the investigation of the case. And let me just say this. If the Bureau walks away from this, they and the Justice Department are going to have to do what Ricky Riccardi used to say, some splaining.
They got some splaining to do, that's right.
Splaining to do, because every government employee will view this as a green light to avoid classification rules.
You bet.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Certainly every official in the Hillary Clinton administration.
Well, they set the new standard.
That's right.
All right, so there's this other story out there that has to do with the Benghazi Committee on Capitol Hill, Trey County's investigation. He says, look, I think that there's some evidence here that the people over at the Pentagon have changed their timeline, that they did not give me complete information, and I need to talk to some other people, and the Pentagon apparently has given them some very public blowback about that.
Yeah, and Trey Gowdy has properly responded to them by calling them dishonest, in essence. What happened was the State Department, the Defense Department was asked to produce a timeline for its activity in not rescuing the Americans in Benghazi. That timeline has proved to be inaccurate repeatedly. As a result of that, the committee issued subpoenas and requests for additional information and additional witnesses. A legislative affairs officer at the Defense Department ripped the committee to shreds, claiming that it was delaying, that it was piling on requests, when in fact many of these requests had been pending for more than a year and had gone unresponded to by the Department of Defense. What's going on here is the political people in the State Department, the Defense Department, have obstructed the investigation of the Select Committee on Benghazi, and they're doing everything they can to run out the clock before the Democratic Convention and before the election. I think Gowdy is beating them at it in a quiet way, and we'll see what happens. But make no mistake about it. The people in the legislative office at the Defense Department are part of a team whose job it is to keep information from the American people.
Right.
Just like that server in Chappaqua.
But why is the Pentagon, usually the Pentagon, well, maybe I shouldn't make this statement, but I would think that usually the Pentagon was relatively forthcoming with information like this when Congress subpoenas it. Why, other than to protect Hillary Clinton, why else would the Pentagon be doing this?
Because just go back to the original investigations. Now, why would the Defense Department act this way? Because they think they can get away with it. Why did they think they can get away with it? Because they got away with it with the original Benghazi investigations, where they provided false and misleading information to the Armed Services Committee, Foreign Affairs, and House Intelligence. And all three of those committees did a horrible job of not following up. All of those three Republican chairmen should be ashamed of themselves. They represent the worst type of oversight in Congress. The fact that it's only now, through the Select Committee, that we are learning about the server. Do you know that none of those idiot committees knew that Hillary Clinton had a private server? How do you conduct an investigation and not find that out?
Gave her a clean bill of health without even knowing that she had emails hidden on a server. But really quickly, the Pentagon is protecting Obama and Hillary here, or are they protecting themselves because they are responsible for
all
the
three.
heft?
All three.
I think you're right.
Remember, the overseers in the House Armed Services Committee, whether Republican or Democrat, view the Department of Defense as a client, and they do everything they can to protect it and to protect the contracts that go to their districts. That's why their investigation was a Potemkin village.
All right.
We're going to leave it right there. Joe diGenova.
Always love having you, Joe.
Yeah, listen, thank you for helping us stay on top of this story.
Bet,
we greatly appreciate it.